This is the Danger Close podcast, Beyond the Books with me, Jack Carr. Welcome to the Danger Close podcast, an Ironclad original presented by Navy Federal Credit Union. My guest today is my friend, Chris Pratt. And if you've followed me for a while, you know that there is only one person that I ever thought of bringing James Reece to life, and that's this guy, Chris Pratt. Do we talk about season 2 in this conversation? You'll have to listen or watch to find out. And now, without further ado, Chris Pratt. Great to see you. Yeah.
Good to see you too.
Yeah, I got the podcast studio going here, which is going to be the office. I was actually, this morning, I was out in a cabin writing away on book 6, and it's not that far away. And I was kind of like, man, I should be home with a family a little more. So I'm going to go there during the day to work, but then at night, I'm just going to come here and make this my writing cabin and just pretend that it's farther away.
I love it. So that podcast room you're sitting in is in your house.
It's on the property, but it's separate, which helps a little bit.
Yeah.
But whenever he goes to bed, I'll come out here and jump on this and just pretend that I'm a million miles away while the kids are asleep. So that's my plan going forward. Trying to make some adjustments here as I move into 2023. But
great.
Oh man,
it looks great, man. Yeah. Look at that. I love that.
Not bad.
Love that little side-by-side double barrel shotgun up there.
Yeah. It's an old Parker Damascus barrel. So, I found that in New Hampshire not too long ago. A guy made me this. He made me right here. So a guy reached out and said he wanted to make me this arrow. His grandfather taught him how to make bows. And then he was a big fan of the novels, so he went and did some research on what tribes in Siberia and Kamchatka Peninsula, Russia, from Savage Son would have used. And then he made me this arrow here. So it's got, I think this is deer bone right here. He's got some tar that's holding it in here. He did a bunch of research and said he got it as close as he could.
That's incredible.
Yeah, amazing. Tracker Joe 08 reached out, sent this to me, and amazing.
That's awesome. Well, that's cool.
Very cool. But
nice.
Man, but thanks for doing this. This is awesome. You have a rare day off. And I know you can't talk about how busy you are because people will be like, oh, Hollywood really busy, it must be really difficult. But man, you are busy. And that's one of the main things from being on set and just having that being my first experience in Hollywood, just kind of looking around and seeing how hard everybody's working at every level. That was one of my huge takeaways. And
is that right? We, especially when you're on a set like that, it's pretty incredible. The film and television industry. I was just saying this the other day in an interview. Hollywood is an easy target. People in Hollywood get made fun of. And by the way, we totally deserve it most of the time. And but all that being said, we really do move mountains. We do some pretty incredible stuff. And our crews are, a couple hundred strong, usually on a TV show like that. And if not upwards of 1,000, if you get one of, 1,000 different souls in various aspects working on these projects. And it takes years to put these things together. It's a mountain of work and a ton of administration. And it's not all that dissimilar from my understanding of sort of like the chain of command of almost like the military. There are various departments and there are people at the top. Oh, yeah. And, that everything works downhill through this chain of command and we get a lot of stuff done. So when you're on set, you're really in the eye of the storm.
Yeah, it's crazy.
This project that we did together was really eye-opening for me because for 20 years I've been acting. And, this was really a new step forward for me to produce something and to be part of each of the steps that actually bring something to screen. As an actor, there's a middle portion that I'm involved in. My first day on set, my last day on set, and everything in between I'm very familiar with. But as a producer, there's a mountain of work to even get to that first day on set. And then there's a mountain of work after that last day on set. And I got to dip my toes in on this one. Well, I more than dip my toes. I jumped head first into the deep end on this one and gained a whole new appreciation for the amount of work that goes into creating a television show.
Yeah. Were you surprised having been in the industry for so long? Or were you kind of like, okay, I can see what these other people are doing before and after? But was it a surprise to you how much extra work there was? I mean, you were involved in everything from the music. I remember you calling me about, hey, what do you think of this sound? And you're doing so much before, during, and after. And your during part is different too, because you're not just showing up to act, you're showing up to do that, obviously, but then you're involved in all the other aspects of production as well as being in front of the camera.
Yes, that's right. I mean, it was one of those things where I didn't know what I didn't know. And so to say that, I don't know that I would say that I was surprised as much as I was just enlightened in a way. I was like, I was just ignorant before and doing, in my defense, not to call myself ignorant, but I didn't have to know how to all that stuff work. I just needed to focus on my part. And, it's a big process with many moving parts. It's a little bit like making a car. There might be a guy who specializes in building tires.
Right.
And then there's a guy who specializes on the drive shaft, and there's someone who specializes on interior, but it's like very few. There's probably not a single person who knows how to make an entire car.
Yeah,
they just have their area that they focus on and become an expert at. And over 20 years, I've kind of become an expert in the field of acting. That's a pull quote that'll make me look like a douche, but
don't worry, we can edit
it. but yeah, so I guess I guess maybe you can call it surprised, but definitely edifying to see, wow, this is what goes into it. And you get out what you put in. And so having it's just been so gratifying. It's been such an awesome experience for me to be able to get so much out of this show, because we've all put so much into it.
Man, it's so cool. And I would have thought you had done it, because we talked about it since that it was your first time doing the production side of it. But I would have thought you've done it 1,000 times before, with how involved you were before, during, and after, and all aspects of this. I was like, because I didn't know beforehand that it was your first time being an executive producer on something and being involved in all these other aspects. And I would have thought you'd done it 1,000 times until I think Dave DiGilio, the showrunner, said that it was your first time doing that. And I was like, what? I mean, so natural.
It was my first time. I'd EP'd on a couple of things, a couple of documentaries that I'd been a part of earlier, but nothing ever in the narrative space or for television or with this big of a budget.
Yeah.
And it was my first foray into this level, but not my last. I really liked it.
Yeah.
I really, really liked it. And it was fun. It was cool.
That was awesome. Cool. We had such a great team too. I mean, it was so awesome. Putting you and Antoine teaming up, and then finding David DiGilio. I mean, we couldn't have found a better showrunner. I mean, he was incredible. Right. And then to have you guys trust me, trust Jared, trust Max, trust Ray, and having such a great relationship. I mean, it was incredible. And everybody that I talked to makes a point to, like Antoine, and then Peter Berg was over here the other day, and he was checking out the studio here and everything. And he made a point to say the same thing, which was, it doesn't usually happen like this in Hollywood, right. Just so you know. It's not usual that you just write a book and then all of a sudden the exact person you want to star, the exact person you want to direct all come together and make it happen, and you get to be involved and all this stuff. And I'm like, oh, it seems like, why not? But, I mean, it's so cool.
I know. I've had people tell me that same thing, where like, it doesn't always happen like this. So, I think it's like an attempt to make someone realize, so give a person some perspective or something. Right. But I mean, that's exactly how it happened. And I think you shouldn't expect anything less. Like, it should always happen like that for you.
Man, it was just so crazy.
Highly favored, my friend.
Oh, thank you. So incredible. But Jared also and Dave say hello. We after we talked yesterday, talked to those guys, and they want to make sure I said hello to you today.
Nice.
So, I mean, what a crazy team. But your path to this point right here, at what point in high school or whenever it was, you started thinking about one day being on the screen?
Oh man. Well, I knew I wanted to be an actor when I was very, very young, because I saw my brother do it. I saw my brother do a play. He was Boo Bear in the Christmas music special.
That's big time, right out of the gate. Huh?
In our family, he was the star of the Christmas thing up in our high school, or our elementary school we were going to in Alaska. in Anchorage.
Wow.
And I remember he had a solo and he like had this lisp and he was singing the song, everything was running smoothly. Everything was going fine. He's dressed up as a bear. My dad did his makeup. Turns out my dad was an incredible makeup artist. Who knew? And I just saw my mom crying and I saw my brother up there, and my whole life, I always just wanted to do whatever my older brother did, because I just looked up to him so much. And so I was like, acting is cool. And at that point, and I grew up in small towns that didn't really celebrate the arts like that, kind of throwback towns with tough blue collar, mill workers and loggers and, the very tough kind of culture.
Yeah.
And there was no stigma in my mind around acting. I was like, that's something that's really cool. That's something I want to do. And so anytime there was ever a play, I always auditioned and got a part of some kind, and in school. And then in high school, my brother did all of our assemblies and was a total showman and did like dances and songs and wrote sketches. And I followed in his footsteps and did the same thing. And so my junior and senior year, I put on these great big productions and basically produced big shows for the whole school that we would do it at like our pep assembly. So they'd be like 15 or 20 minutes long, and we do sketches and kind of just rip stuff off from SNL, or we did something based on Grease, and we did something based on Michael Jackson's Thriller. And, I just loved it. I loved the spotlight. I loved the attention. I felt like I excelled in that world. And it did not seem realistic to me that I would like say, oh, one day I'm going to go be an actor. But I loved the thought of it. The way someone may love the thought of being an astronaut, as a kid, and say like, but I'm, that's not going to, obviously not going to really happen, but gosh, it'd be cool to go to space. So I loved it. I knew I would, if given the opportunity, I would be able to excel in that arena, but I had no avenue for actually getting there. I didn't know anyone in Hollywood. I didn't have a pot to piss in terms of money. I couldn't afford to just go to Hollywood or, so I pursued acting after high school. I started doing plays in the community, and I got a job at a little dinner theater and did one act melodramas as like the bad guy in these, plays that we would do while people were eating and they wouldn't even pay attention to the play that was happening on the stage. And we did it for free basically. And I did a theater class in community college and just kept doing, I started doing stand-up comedy. I just really loved the spotlight, and just, through a series of very fortunate coincidences, or call it fate or whatever, I met a director who gave me an audition, and that was 20 years ago. That's
20 years ago. And in Hawaii? Are you in Hawaii? Is this the point where you're in Hawaii?
I was in Hawaii. I had moved to Hawaii after like sort of a failed stint as a door-to-door salesman.
And what were you selling?
I was selling these coupons for businesses in the service industry. So for oil changes or for trips to a salon, that kind of a thing, like promotional little packages.
No way.
And I did very well as a door-to-door salesman. I loved it. I could it was the same thing that's really serviced me well as an actor, just being able to kick in a door and walk in there and sell myself and get people excited. And, attitude is contagious. And, we had all these little sayings we would say, like PMA equals OPM, which was positive mental attitude equals other people's money.
Oh, no way. That's wild.
I learned more about how to operate in Hollywood as a door-to-door salesman than anyone ever will in a theater class or a college prep class for school or film school. I mean, the business side of it, just the straight salesmanship and the grind and the hustle and the facing rejection and waking up and knocking on doors and hearing people say no and saying, fuck it, I'm moving forward anyways. And the thick skin required, all that stuff really suits acting well.
Interesting. And probably just being a public figure in general, taking barbs. Well, man, that's crazy. So eventually, after this stint as a door-to-door salesman, you find yourself in Hawaii, and is the Bubba Gump shrimp story, that's out there? Is that how it happened? And Ray Don Chong is there, and she sees you?
Yeah, Ray Don Chong, she sees me. Wow. I picked up a shift that day. I worked enough hours to keep I think you had to work 20 hours a week to keep insurance or something like that. So I'd work about 20 hours a week, and I had very little overhead because we just were like camping on the beach. living in a van in a tent with my buddy Zeb, who he and I were co-captains of the wrestling team in high school. And a whole bunch of us moved out there together in high school. And we're just living the good life and as youngsters. And I picked up a shift, which I never did. I was always giving my shifts away. I picked one up for my buddy. And then I saw this woman that I recognized from the movies. And I just was like, and I think part of me in that moment was like, she's from Hollywood.
Yeah.
Door-to-door sales. Boom. You know, go kick that door down.
No way. Really?
Part of me felt that. Yeah. I was like, I was going to go explore it. And I was just immediately like, you're a movie star.
No
she was
way.
Like, my name's Ray. Hi. And I was like, hi, what are you doing here? She was like, you're cute. Do you act? I was like, fuck yeah, I act. Yep.
Yes.
Sure do. Put me in a movie.
And
I'm your man. What do you need? And she was like, do you really? I said, yeah, I'm an actor. And she said, well, give me your phone number. I've got an audition for you. And at the time I didn't have a phone. I didn't even have a house. You know, I was like, so I gave her my buddy's phone number. This guy named Michael Jackson. Not the same one. Not the pop star. But a guy named Michael Jackson, who was one of our managers. And a couple days later, he was like, hey man, some like Chinese chick called you for you, something Chong. I was like, oh, right, dude. Oh, right. What'd she say? And he's like, just call her back. So I call her and she was like, okay, so I didn't think you were going to call me back, but we need to audition you. I'm leaving tomorrow. I was like, great. What do I do? And so I borrowed my buddy's van. I drove to the other side of the island. I picked up the script. I went home, read the whole thing like 3 times, the script. I was like, whoa, this is crazy. The character's name is Nick. If I played a character, my name would be Nick. He's wearing a flannel shirt. I bet you I have a flannel shirt. It was just all so exciting. I remember everything about it. And then I went and auditioned and halfway through, she was like, you're good. We're going to use you. I was like, and I said, does it shoot here on the island? You know, like I need to find out, sort of like getting time off work and stuff. I'd love to. It sounds great. She was like, it shoots in LA. And I'm immediately crestfallen, thinking, wow, I've got about $60 to my name. I was like, I can't afford to go to LA. And she said, sweetie, we'll fly you there. And I really felt in that moment the tectonic plates of my life beneath me shifting. And I actually knew right then, I was like, oh my God, my dreams are going to come true. Like, this is it. I'm going to go and be in this movie, and I'm going to be a movie star. I'm going to go be a movie star now.
So awesome. This
has happened. I remember floating out and going down to the beach after the audition and just like looking at her as we're bobbing in the waves. And I was like, I'm going to remember this moment. This is my life just changed forever.
Wow. That's amazing. Was she in your section, or did you go over to her at the restaurant?
I went over to someone else's section.
Wow. That is so awesome. And now, of course, Radon Chong starred with Arnold Schwarzenegger in Commando, of course.
Yeah,
and then now Father-in-Law. I mean, that's and she was awesome, by the way. I love that film. Of course, that's
she's great. And Quest for Fire, she's a really great actress, and had a really amazing career, and in a strange way was like sort of put in my life as a way to sort of bring me here. I mean, I do believe in fate, and I do believe in, I don't think things I don't think we just live in a world of chaos where things just randomly happen. Yeah. I believe in fate. That was meant to be.
Yeah.
And, I'm forever going to be grateful for her, for introducing me and bringing me down here. I mean, I got paid $700 to do the movie. And so it wasn't like they rolled out the golden carpet and it was easy, but the door was cracked open. That's right. Now I had tape. Now I met people. I could start networking. I could meet the managers that were representing friends of mine that I'd met on the movie. I could meet agents. I had, I had a scene or two cut together from the movie that I could go and start selling myself. I had to get a job in Beverly Hills and start working as a waiter again. I spent the $700 on a car. I started couch surfing. Nice. Our script supervisor's named Lauren, and her now husband, Doug, who's a lit agent at ICM. Wait, he's not
my agent? No, but
Doug McLaren.
Oh, wow.
Lit agent at ICM. And
that would have been crazy if he was, though.
I know. I know. But I went and stayed at their house for a few weeks, and then I had to go back home because I was out of money and I needed to go raise more money. So I had a couple of friends back home that would employ me to go do some yard work and stuff. So I went back home and worked for a few weeks straight, trying to raise a couple $100s to come back to LA and give it a real go. And when I came back, I hadn't called Lauren and Doug. I just showed up. And I was like, I'm back. And they're like, what? They're like, oh, the room is taken. My brother's in town. And I was like, that's fine. I'll just sleep out by your pool. And so I just slept out on their lawn chairs for like a couple weeks.
No way.
And then me and her brother, Chris, ended up getting an apartment together.
No way. That is crazy. How soon after that does Everwood happen? Is that the next kind of step?
After that, it was incremental steps. I mean, I didn't get my SAG card by doing the Ray Dawn film. So so I had to get a SAG card, and I got that by doing a guest star on a USA television show called The Huntress. I had 2 lines. I auditioned. They didn't know I didn't have my SAG card the day before. They got angry with me. They're like, you don't have your SAG card? I was like, I don't even know what that is. And so they Taft-Hartley'd me into the union. So boom, I was in the union. And then you have to pay union dues. It's like $3,000. I was like, oh my God, I'm $3,000. That's like take me 2 years to save up $3,000. You know what I mean? And so I then got a commercial agent, started trying to audition for commercials. And I got a couple commercials. I was able to pay for my SAG dues. And then I auditioned for a movie that was like the first big job I got that actually was the last time I was ever a waiter. Like I left my waiting job to do this movie, and it was called The Extreme Team, and that shot in New Zealand, and it was happening right during 9/11.
Oh wow!
So September 1st or September 11th, 2001, I was in New Zealand.
Wow!
And everything that happened on 9/11 happened, and
where are you awake at the time? Because it's the time difference.
I woke up to it.
Okay.
I woke up to it, and they were like, everyone was playing. They were talking. They're like, the World Trade Center got hit. The World Trade Center. Me, 20 years old, maybe 21 years old, from Lake Stevens, Washington. No idea what the World Trade Center is. I'm just thinking it's like a big swap meet in Chicago or something. I was like, the guy is a trade center. It's like what is it? What is it? And then I saw the videos, like, oh my God, it's like a giant. And I just didn't know, And then so we watched what was happening. And it was very strange, actually, to be in a foreign country for that, because immediately people started saying, like, well, I remember distinctly a few people that were not American saying, like, well, this is what you get. This is what America gets, for their involvement in various things like this sort of. And I was like, just in shock. And I remember kind of stepping away and crying, thinking about like everyone who died. And I was just like, I can't believe this happened. And then we went to work. We went to work that day. Okay. They just kept going. And I was, and then I went and visited after we wrapped. I went and visited my buddy in Australia. And that's when, George W. was, gave his sort of State of the Union about the plan moving forward, and the world changed. I just remember the world changing right there. It's wild. It's really wild to think. Yeah. And it was not I sometimes wonder like what my life would have been like had I not been called to sort of my path previous to 9/11.
Right.
If I was still living on the beach, smoking a bunch of weed and kind of not fulfilling, like slowly the small island fever and like the wondering what I'm doing with my life would have crept in. And if 9/11 had happened and I was still out there, I wonder if I would have been called in a different direction.
Yeah. Did you have family members that were in the military?
My brother was in the Army for about 10 years, and then went into law enforcement. Yeah. And then my cousin, Curtis, who was like a brother to me growing up, he lived in the same town as us, but was about 10 years older or so, or 12 years older. Yeah. He was in the Navy. Yeah. And, my uncles fought in Vietnam. And so I had a lot of Like, and I have cousins, my cousin who was in the Navy, both his sons went in the Coast Guard. It was kind of like the path for most of the people around us. In fact, the only reason I didn't do it, because I had done everything my brother did. I just followed in his footsteps. I literally wore the clothes that he wore the day before. Yeah. I would put them on. I completely followed my brother. Yeah. And I remember him, after getting out of basic, telling me not to join the Army.
Yeah, exactly. Don't do it.
Like, don't do it, dude.
Yeah, that's wise advice. Yeah.
Like, oh, okay. He goes, yeah, man. I think he recognized like a certain sensitivity about me or something special in me that he thought would have maybe been killed had I, he always really took care of me. I was like really sensitive kid, and he always was my protector. Yeah. And maybe he thought that it wouldn't have been a good fit for me. Maybe he was right.
Yeah. I wonder how many people that had this calling, but hadn't quite gotten to that stage where they were directly on the path and they were still going door to door thinking about what their true calling was, or they're still working as a waiter somewhere, but still thinking about that path and that calling. And then all of a sudden 9/11 happens. And how many people shifted off that path that they were on, but they were just starting out and hadn't really developed to a stage yet where they could jump into whatever that calling was and be in the beginning stages of it. And 9/11 happens, and all of a sudden total shift, and they join the military, join the Army, join the Marines, whatever, and off they go. And then life takes a different turn. Yeah,
would have been a different turn. I mean, for me especially, I think like a lot of people went down that path, and like 9/11 happened the next day, they're in a recruiter's office. Right. And I think the reason I don't say this to be like to steal valor, to be like, oh, well, I would have been a fucking tough guy or whatever, who knows? I probably would have been filling snack machines on a,
which is very important, by the way, to the snack machine fillers.
Fine. But I think the thing about it that I feel like would have called me was I grew up an athlete. I was I was on the wrestling team, and I was a football player, and I was always surrounded by my teammates and pushed and driven by coaches and forged in training. Yeah. And so I remember after getting out of high school, slowly and incrementally, I got in worse shape, and I was kind of longing for that. I was like, I feel like I kind of was turning into a bit of a turd. I was drinking too much, was smoking too much, and, and I just feel like if that had happened, part of me would have longed to find leadership and brotherhood again that I had sort of felt when I was an athlete in school. I just wonder if that would have been my path.
Yeah. Did you do track and field too? Did you do shot put? Is that?
Yeah, I was a shot put and javelin discus thrower. Nice.
Javelin. That's pretty serious.
Yeah. That's awesome. Fun. That's a great sport. I was all sport athlete through school. I did every season after school. And, I really thought that I would pursue football in college, but I was a little slow. And so I joined the track team instead of the baseball team, thinking that track would get me to learn how to become a faster runner. Yeah. But throwing shot put was so much easier that I just kind of didn't, I didn't have to run. I'd run like an 800 to get warmed up and then just go.
Oh man, it's so crazy. And so you're doing these films. You're in. I wasn't too far away from you. I was in Guam on 9/11. My second week into my second deployment. 9/11 happens, and then off we go to the Middle East. But it was about midnight, if I recall correctly, and everybody starts banging on doors up and down the hallway because we don't have TVs in our rooms. And then we went down to the barracks basement and watched it on TV, watched the Twin Towers fall, and then off we went. But I wasn't too far from you. But you come back from that, and you're still doing, and then Everwood, then
and then I come back from that, and I'm like, made decent money on the Extreme Team movie, nice enough to like not have to be a waiter again. And I came into LA, and I started kind of like hanging out and partying a lot, and just kind of enjoying youth and auditioning for everything. And I auditioned for Everwood, but I'd basically blew through all of the money. And like, I remember my car was being towed that day. My car got towed that day, and I had to pay them like $1,500 to keep my car. That was going to be the trade-off. Like I owed so much in tickets and the boot and all that stuff. And that the value of my car plus $1,500 was going to pay off It was an 86 Suzuki Samurai.
Nice.
And with a soft top. It was a great car. And so I was like broke. That pretty much wiped me out. And I was like, oh no. And so I walked to my friend Jen's house. She lives like down in Inglewood. And I walked there, and this is back when I used to smoke a lot of weed. And she rolled me this big blunt, and we smoked. And I was like, I think I'm tapped out. Like, I think I gotta, like, I'm done. I don't have a car. I don't have any money. Like, I fucking blew it. Terrible. And my manager at the time, Bonnie Owens, who's since passed away, may she rest in peace, Bonnie. My first manager called me and said, Chris Pratt. She used to call me Chris Pratt. Chris Pratt, we have an emergency audition. You need to go in. And I was like, I don't. Oh, and I'm like very stoned at the time. I was like, I don't think that might, that's, I don't have a car, Bonnie. I forgot to tell you my car got towed. She was like, oh, okay, well, where are you? I'll come pick you up. I was like, oh gosh. All right. So I gave her Jen's address. She came to pick me up. Jen was like, you need to shave. You need to clean yourself up, take a shower, drink a Coca-Cola, So I'm getting these lines, and I'm looking, there's like 8 or 9 pages of dialogue. And I was like, Beavis and Butthead in my brain. And like my last 2 brain cells running together, trying to put this work together. And I was like, I said to Bonnie, I was like, I can't memorize this. I can't. And she goes, honey, just go in there and be you. Just be you. Just be yourself. And if they like you, they'll find room for you. It's Joseph Middleton. He's the casting director who at the CW at the time was auditioning for everything on the CW, One Tree Hill and Dawson's Creek and all these shows that were like right in that zone for me. And I'd gotten very close and tested for characters and gotten very close, but hadn't gotten any jobs. And she said, just go be yourself. Just be yourself. All you need to do is walk in there and just be you. And I read the audition, and I was like, I was just stoned enough to have the hubris to try this thing that I'd always tried, which was to go in there and pretend I am the guy rather than go in there and say, hey, my name's Chris, and then start acting. And I said, so the character was called Bright Abbott, and he was a total bully. And he like picks on this kid because he has purple hair. And he's basically it was the part that I auditioned for all the time, which was the guy who's like, hey, bro, back off, I'll kick your ass. And then in the end, that character like gets kicked in the balls. And he's like, spiky hair, and he drives an Escalade because he's a total douche. That was the character I was always auditioning for.
Like Biff.
It's like fit the physical profile of the guy that you just wanted to punch in the face at the time. And that was that guy. And so, and he was kind of vapid, a little dumb and cocky. And so I was like, I'm going to go in there and I'm just going to be him. I'm going to pretend like that's exactly who I am as a person. So I walk in, and it was Greg Berlanti and Mickey Liddell, Everwood. And they said, hey, Chris, thank you so much for coming in last minute. Do you have any questions? I was like, well, I kind of breezed through it, but here's the scoop seems to be that I'm the star, which I wouldn't have been. It was like this other kid, the kid with the purple hair was absolutely clearly his story, and his dad. It was Gregory Smith and Treat Williams. I was like a guy who was maybe in a few scenes just to be there to pick on him. I go, so I'm the star. And this little purple-haired freak moves into town, and he's trying to get with my sister. So this is me just basically putting him in his place. And they were like, yes, that's right. And I did exactly the thing. I just improv the whole thing. Nice. I was like, all right, see you later. And I just walk out, and then I immediately put my ear to the door because I used to always do that when I walk out of auditions if no one was looking.
Really?
And I hear them go, that's the guy. That's the guy.
Nice.
And I was like, oh my God, I'm the guy. And the next day I had a studio screen test. And within 3 weeks, I was packing up my automobile and moving to Utah to go shoot a show.
Salt Lake.
No. First we went to Canada.
Oh, wow.
Shot the show. And then it got picked up. And then we moved to Utah. And that's when I lived in Utah.
Doing the Salt Lake thing. And then comes the OC. And then it goes into Parks and Rec. And then
I went OC. I did Everwood, and then I did the OC, and then and then I after the OC.
And this is a period where you have some amazing headshots for anyone that follows you on Instagram. Pratt on Instagram. There was one you did the other day that was like that. The throwback. People were doing it, I guess. Putting the song to it.
Yeah.
And you put like 10 of these headshots in there. Like there's some gems in there from this time period, from like 2000 to 2000. I don't know, 8-ish time.
Yeah.
There's some solid headshots.
Curly, like head.
Yeah,
of
it's
fantastic.
Hair
and like. Oh,
the Izod shirt. I saw one with a red Izod shirt.
Oh yeah,
it feels so great.
You could see why I was cast as the guy that you wanted to punch in the face.
It was great.
Yeah, there were some gems. Teenage dirtbag. I was a teenage dirtbag. Yeah, around that time I did so we did 4 seasons of Everwood, then it got canceled, and it was funny because the OC had been cast and put into production a year after Everwood. And so Everwood was doing pretty well, but then the OC came in and was doing very well. And there was kind of similar shows, young teeny kind of shows. And we were always in their shadow. And then our show got canceled, but the OC went on, and there was an opportunity for me to be on the OC. So I was like, great, got to keep working. So I went and did 1 season of that, which was really fun. And then after that, I think I did a couple of movies. I think I did this movie, Take Me Home Tonight. And again, the kind of douche character. And that's with Topher Grace. And then after that, I got Parks and Rec.
Nice.
And I remember I was testing for another TV show called Chuck at the time.
I remember Chuck.
And Chuck was, do you remember that show, Chuck?
I do, yeah.
Yeah, I tested for that show. Zach Levi ended up doing it, I think.
But I remember the show. I remember the commercial.
He was the guy who did it, and I had tested for that, but he got the role. And after that, there was a couple movies I was auditioning for, but then I went and auditioned for Parks and Rec, and that was a wild, crazy thing. I ended up going for 7 seasons, and it started off as a guest star. You know, I was just again the douche. Yeah. But the problem was every time I played the douche, it was like that wasn't really actually in my wheelhouse. Like I didn't know how to believably do it, you know, because I felt like I was always just playing characters that were a little closer to myself. And, you know, I don't think I'm a douche. So like, I think that like there's a certain douchiness that some people have that you kind of can't wipe off. And I never was able to put it on in a believable way. Yeah. So even in Everwood, when I was cast as a douche, they ended up taking the character and just shifting it more towards my own natural personality and making me a character that's closer to who I really am with like heightened sense. And it's the same thing with Parks and Rec. Like I was playing this douche character, but they realized me trying to be funny and be Andy Dwyer was more effective in terms of evoking a comedic, you know, a response from the audience than me playing a douche. And so slowly the writing shifted and I became Andy Dwyer.
And at the same time, you're going out still for looking at other roles like Moneyball. Is that during that time frame as well? And
that's exactly right. Well, we did 7 seasons. In the last 3 seasons or 4 seasons, I was always doing stuff on the break. So we'd have, you know, in television, network television now it once was 22 episodes. You're working probably 7 months out of the year. And then you have or 8 months out of the year. Then you have a 4-month break, like a summer vacation. And then you're trying to do jobs in that summer break. And so during that summer break, I did some jobs. I ended up every break I'd do, like I did a movie called Bride Wars with Kate Hudson and Anne Hathaway, which to this day is Catherine's favorite movie that I've done. She hasn't seen any of my stuff. But
she hasn't seen anything else.
It's a masterpiece, cinematic masterpiece. Okay,
don't let her watch the Terminal List.
So I did Bride Wars, and then I had the opportunity to do Moneyball. But the thing is with Parks and Rec, I realized, like, I remember watching season 2 or 3 and looking at myself and I was like, oh dude, you're getting fat. I'm getting fat. And I also was like, my lifestyle at the time, I was like really partying a lot, you know, I was drinking a lot and, you know, not exercising at all and just like eating a ton. And in that episode that I saw that I was fat, I was like, this is the funniest I think I've seen myself. Like I might lean into this, because up until that point, remember, the only stuff I could do when I was in shape was the douchebag asshole role. Yeah. And I was like, maybe this is my chance to go to that next level and I'll be kind of comedic sidekick guy. I'll just lean into it. It fits the lifestyle I wanted to live at the time. I wanted to eat. I wanted to drink. I didn't want to have to exercise, and I didn't care. It was like all comedy lacks vanity. So I was like, throw vanity out the window and just see. And so I told my boss, Mike Schur, I was like, I want to see how fat I can get. And he was like, great, cool. And so I put on about 30 pounds, and just the fatter I got, the funnier it was. And so I was doing that, but then I auditioned for Moneyball, and they were like, they liked you, but they think you're too fat.
And then you cut it, right? Then you cut it to get the part, right?
I cut it. I just went back to wrestling mode. I was like, all right, good. And then, I had about 6 weeks. I had tested with Brad Pitt and Bennett Miller, and the part of the reason I was just not, they didn't even say you're too fat, because that kind of rejection comes as a little bit more subtle. They were like, but the truth is, Brad Pitt was playing Billy Bean, and Billy Bean's about 6'5", 6'4", 6'5", and I'm playing Scott Hatterberg, who's 5'10". So you put us in the room together, me at Chris Pratt at 285, 290 pounds next to Brad, who's in pretty good shape. I just look like Shrek next to him. You know what I mean? So I started really trimming down and cutting weight. And I would send my agent a new photo like every week and check in like, hey, did they cast it yet? Did they cast it yet? Did they cast it yet? And finally I got in really great shape. I was like down to about 235. Maybe. I'd probably gotten up to about 265 at that point. So I was down to about 235. I cut about 30 pounds, I think. And sent the picture in. He was like, holy shit, dude, is that you? I said, yeah. And so they sent it over. And then that's when I went and did a screen test, I think, and then got the role.
That is awesome. And how crazy it is, Scott Hatterberg's at our hotel for the premiere. Right. Like he's there with his family at the hotel. Yeah. And then he sees me and he's like a fan of the books and all that. And so that was crazy. I mean, all these things like crazy connect.
Crazy connection. He's such a good dude. Yeah. So and that really opened every door for me, because I did that movie. It was more of a dramatic character. It was like, it wasn't, there was certain levels of comedy in some of it and a little bit of levity that we brought my characters with. Stephen Bishop's character, who plays Dave Justice. We had some scenes that were kind of like created laughter, but there was some pathos to the character. He's this guy who's like washed up and or at the time, had fucked up his elbow. And so there was a little bit of gravity to the character. And I think that like is what Catherine Bigelow saw that allowed her. She told me when we first met, she was like, I saw you in Moneyball and I thought that you'd be right to be a Navy SEAL in Zero Dark 30. So we had a meeting, and I got to do that role. So I did Moneyball, came home, got fat again to do another season of Parks and Rec, then got cast as a Navy SEAL, had to lose that weight. Amazing. And go do Zero Dark 30.
Man, that is so crazy. I know you're on the clock, so I want to make sure that I get you out of here on time. So I want to ask about the terminal list, but but before we get there, so you then get Guardians and you get Jurassic kind of at the same time.
Well, I got Guardians of the Galaxy after doing another kind of yo-yo diet thing.
Yeah.
And I was in the final season of Parks and Rec. I got the offer for Guardians of the Galaxy, which was, the thing is I saw Zero Dark 30, and it was the first time, like I reevaluated myself and maybe what I was capable of doing in Hollywood. I knew I had comedic chops. I knew that I wanted to do comedy. Like Parks and Rec was allowing me to really hone my skills as an improv comedian.
Yeah.
And I'd been seeing this sort of glut of action comedy coming out around that time, which was primarily like weaklings put into positions of power. That was like happening a lot. Like if you punch a guy, like you break your wrist, or like, you try to kick a door down and you hurt your foot, like that kind of a fish out of water action comedy, which, there's plenty of room for that. But I was thinking to myself, like after just watching Zero Dark 30, I didn't hear anybody or read any reviews or hear anyone say, well, that Chris Pratt couldn't be a Navy SEAL on TV. Obviously I couldn't have been one in real life probably, but on TV or on a movie, it was believable that I could have been a member of this like dev group, SEAL Team 6 or whatever. And so I thought to myself, like, I don't know what's out there. Maybe we have to develop something. I want to do action comedy. But I want to be proficient in action. I want to be able to like, literally kick a door down, but also find a way to make it funny. And I said this to my manager, and Guardians of the Galaxy had come several times, maybe like 3 or 4 times. And I just passed on even auditioning for it. I was like, I've auditioned for this thing. Trust me, I know I'm not that guy. I'm not the guy. I've went and done these like sort of heroic roles, auditioned for these heroic roles, and no one has cast me. And I've never even come close.
Yeah.
I'm a little too fat. I'm kind of in this sidekick area. But then after I saw Zero Dark 30, I was like, dang, maybe I could be believable as the tough guy. And I was talking to my manager. She goes, what about this Guardians of the Galaxy thing, man? Like, just go in there and do the thing that you would want to do if you're going to develop a comedy.
Yeah.
If you were going to develop a character, what would it be? Like, can you make it funny and have him be kind of badass? I was like, so that was really kind of the impetus for that. And then, so I did Guardians of the Galaxy. And then while I was filming Guardians of the Galaxy, I had a Zoom call with Colin Trevorrow for Jurassic.
Wow.
And he told me the whole pitch and the whole story. I was like, that sounds great. And then I forgot about it because I was just so immersed in Jurassic and then Guardians. And then like a year later, once we had wrapped and Guardians hadn't come out.
But it hadn't come out yet. That's the part that's so remarkable. No. Like two huge films like that. And before one comes out, they're already after you for the other, which is amazing. I was already committed to Jurassic World before Guardians. So great. Man, did you know Guardians was going to be special as you were filming it? Or was it one of those things like this could go either way? Because it was one of those things where I was, I had learned some of the wisdom I gained in the several years I'd been in Hollywood at that point was like, lower your expectations. Yeah.
It's always nothing till it's something. Don't get your hopes up. You'll just get them crushed. And so I remember we shot for about 11 days on Guardians of the Galaxy in London. And then we got to fly in a private jet from London all the way to San Diego for Comic-Con. It was so dope. It's like, we're on a private jet. This is crazy. And we debuted some footage from this camera test and from like the 11 days that we had shot together.
Okay.
And I was looking at it and I was like, oh my God, this might be very special. This could be really good. And everyone lost their minds. And as we were heading back, I'm like covering Goosebumps right now. I was like, whoa, what did we just see? I think this is incredible. And so we went and finished the movie, but I was like, don't get excited.
Yeah.
Every time you've gotten excited about a part because you had a good audition, you don't get it. It's like, don't do that. You're just going to end up getting hurt, And so then I saw the movie. I was just about to wrap Jurassic World 1. And I got to finally see a screening of Guardians. I went with Jared. Me and Jared was with me on Jurassic. And Jared is the SEAL.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to talk all about him.
Talk about Jared.
Oh, yeah.
He's our producer on one of our producers on The Terminal List. Met him while I was doing Zero Dark 30 and became like my best friend and, was in my wedding. This guy's the best.
So great.
And he's the one who introduced me to you and brought the book, The Terminal List to me.
Crazy.
But Jared and I saw it for the first time. And I remember watching it in the first scene. I was like, this is really great. Oh my God, this is beautiful. And then you see Star-Lord dancing. And I was like, oh my God. I think I blew it. Like this, I'm so scared. I'm so scared. I don't think anyone's going to like this at all. And then it cut. And then after this whole dance sequence, I was like, give myself diarrhea. I was so nervous. I'm like, oh, my guts hurt. And then I saw Groot and Rocket by the water fountain in this Xandar scene. And I was like, actually, I think this movie might be awesome. And then I watched it. And even walking out of it, I was like, I think that's good. I think that's good. But still, I think it's good because I'm in it or because I'm close to it. I still just wanted to lower my expectations. Then it came out, was like this massive hit.
Man, it's so crazy. So crazy. And this thing, so I saw, of course, I'm aware of you in Parks and Rec, and then I see Zero Dark 30 and I see that transformation. And of course, this is like 2014 or something. So I'm typing away on the Terminal List. I have no connections in Hollywood, not in publishing. And I'm like, this guy will star as James Reece. Like, it made sense to me to choose the exact person that I wanted to star in what I'm just starting to type out here in the little office off our bedroom in Coronado, California, with a couple of years left in the military. And around that, a little bit before that, Jared had let me know that he's getting out of the military, and we get to sit down and talk about what he's going to do next and talk about that transition out of the military. And I get to introduce him to some people in the private sector in a field that he was interested in going into. And I followed up with him about it. And then I forgot all about that conversation. I had no idea at the time that you'd come down, that you'd run the O course and checked out training, and you guys had connected. And so I had no idea about any of that, which is insanity. But I know that you're the person, and I know that Antoine is the right person to direct, because I'm still a kid. Like in my head, I'm a kid in the 80s, watching all these movies and reading all these books. And now I'm doing it as I'm getting out of the Navy. And I've been thinking about it for so long that, of course, this thing that I'm writing is going to get optioned by the exact person I want to star, the exact director. And it's going to, it's just made sense. I didn't waste any bandwidth worried about how this couldn't happen. What are the odds of this happening? Which now, I guess it doesn't happen every day. But there's this cool thing that I just read right before I walked in here. And it speaks to kind of to what I saw, even though I didn't know you yet. And it's from somebody named Venus Kanani, a casting director for something you did. It's called Deep in the Valley.
Oh, yeah.
And so she says, we see thousands of actors a year. Most of them you forget. He was one you didn't. And then she says, Chris has an intangible quality. You want to watch him, know him, and hang out with him. And I saw that same thing. I was like, this is somebody that you want to sit down, you want to have a coffee with, you want to have a beer with. And as an actor, he's somebody who can flip that switch and go from Parks and Rec to a SEAL operator in Zero Dark 30. He's inherently likable on and off screen from what I know. And I'm like, this is the guy. And then crazy, fast forward, before the book even comes out, Jared gets in touch with me, and David Bowles is kind of the unsung hero of all this. He's another friend of ours who kind of let Jared know I had a book coming out. And Jared calls me, and I'm on a range somewhere, and he says, "Hey, I heard you have first he called to thank me, which was awesome, and remind me what I did for him, and I didn't even think anything of it, because you always want to help good people no matter what. And Jared's an amazing guy, obviously, and I said, no problem, obviously you're welcome. And how's it all going? And he said, well, it's going great, but I heard you have a book coming out. And I said, yeah, I have a book coming out in a few months, about 5 months out. I have this galley copy, which is a rough draft I can send you early if you want to check it out. And I found out what a galley was like 2 weeks prior. And and so he's like, yeah, I'd like that, but I'd like to give it to a friend of mine. And I was like, yeah, who's that? And he says, Chris Pratt. And I was like, oh, this is very convenient for me because Chris is the exact person I want to star in this thing. Anyway, sent it to him. He gave it a read first just to make sure it wasn't garbage, and then gave it to you. And I have a picture of you reading it for the first time. And I don't even know if you know that. I have a picture of you reading it for the first time. Jared might have snuck it. And and then you called, the first week in January of 2018, before it even hit shelves. So crazy how all this kind of goes together. But what spoke, because now I know how many people must send you things, because now I get things, not just books for blurbs, but people are sending me screenplays and like all sorts of stuff, because they just think that you have, whatever. But I can only imagine how many things and how many filters are in place or whatever. But because there's have to be just for you to, live. But what spoke to you about the Terminal List after all the things out there? And you read it at a point where you can do pretty much, you have options at this point. And and you read it and you want to do it. What was that thing that made you want to do it?
Well, I think that, first of all, I had really loved the notion, and especially at the time, right? Like, I'm not sure, you kind of always have for me, I've always had my finger on the pulse of how I'm perceived, and you want to kind of keep surprising people. And I felt, at least back then, that people were going to be very forgiving of me for some reason. Like, they liked the things that I was doing. They liked whatever I seemed to stand for in their mind at that time. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure it's exactly like that anymore. So there's factions of people who dislike me.
There's no getting away from that.
It felt like there weren't at the time. Yeah. And I thought to myself, I bet you I could rip somebody's guts out on camera and not lose an audience member. And there was like an opportunity because, obviously based on the book, what people know of the series now, it departs from the book, but there was a whole piece. I think it was Tedesco, maybe down in.
It was the lawyer.
Florida?
Yeah, it was the lawyer. Yeah.
Was that the lawyer Tedesco? Was his name Tedesco?
No, it was, Mike Tedesco was the other guy. So we did switch. The lawyer, I always want to say the name of like the real person I was thinking of. So
don't say it. Okay. But there's a lawyer, and he gets gutted, and he walks around this. I just remember that, like, so I looked at it as an opportunity to really stretch and surprise people and try to, again, prove myself in a way, like the way that I got to when I did Guardians of the Galaxy, and everyone was like, the fat guy from Parks and Rec is going to be a Marvel guy. No, he's not. It's going to be a bomb. It's going to be a fail. No one's going to watch it. Like, I like the challenge of saying, like, I think you have an idea of who I am, audience members. I'm gonna flip that on its head. I'd like to surprise you. It's an opportunity for me to challenge myself. So I saw that in the character. And I think that there are a few opportunities for me to have done that in a very few various ways that I could have done that. And really what made this one particularly special, apart from just like how well it was written, the character in itself and how much I loved the book and I loved the world, I think my relationship with Jared drove a lot of it into action.
Yeah.
Because you can have a lot of irons in the fire, something comes in, you go, yeah, I get that. Like I think I have the rights to a couple of different stories that I would really love to tell. Mm-hmm. But my relationship with Jared and knowing that he and I could do this together and sitting and watching movies with him where he was constantly calling out bullshit. He's like, that's not what it's like. Right. That's dumb. I don't, that it would never happen like that. Yeah, that's some Hollywood bullshit right there. Like I was thinking to myself, I don't pick up on this stuff. Mm-hmm. A lot of what I know, everything now it's different, but at the time, everything I knew of combat came from film and television.
Right.
And just like a lot of writers and a lot of scripts that you read, their knowledge of what happens on the battlefield comes from the things they've seen in film and television or potentially read in books. They don't have that on the ground experience. And I knew having Jared as a partner, we could reach a level of authenticity for him, for you, for members of the Spec Ops community. He's the perfect filter, because if it doesn't work, he'll sniff it out.
Yeah.
So like being able to have that type of authenticity was great. The prospect of doing all of the tactical training and the physical training required is a massive challenge. I thought that would be amazing, and Jared and I could do it together.
Yeah.
And so my relationship with Jared and the closeness there really was probably the extra fuel needed to really get this going. I mean, he truly deserves the credit for this entire thing being pushed forward. And as we move forward into this world and expand the Jack Carr Cinevision universe, Jared will be a huge part of that. And, I love it. I love the idea of being able to continue our partnership and our friendship and our working relationship for the next, you, Jared, me, and all of the members involved, continuing to just make great content for the audience that you aim that book at, and that we got to, piggyback onto and find with our series with Amazon.
Yeah.
So that was the impetus. That was it. I kind of rambled there.
Oh man, I love it. Jared, I mean, man, amazing. And he's Boozer for those listening or watching. That's Jared. He's Boozer in the show. Also tech advisor, producer, on set every day, along with Ray Mendoza,
shadow writer.
Adam, exactly. Amazing writer, by the way. I mean, his changes and recommendations and all that was just next level. Very different show without Jared involved, without Max, without Ray. Like that team there every day on set. Very different show without those guys and without the trust. And you talked earlier about it being like a military operation, and it was. When I walked on set for that first time in that first episode, and I looked around, I saw, Antoine, that's like the commanding officer right now. Yeah. Okay. And there's Chris. He's setting the tactical level tone like a troop commander or platoon commander would. It also happens to be what you're playing in the show, coincidentally. You bring in all this energy and to the set, and then I'm like, okay, there's the mobility guy. We have a mobility guy in the SEAL team. There's the explosives guy. Hey, we have a breacher. We have an explosives guy. There's the armorer. Guess what we have in a SEAL team? The armorer. And guess what you need to do? You need to feed all these people. There's craft food services. I mean, so many things that were the same, and then also. So many people came up to me on set, and they didn't need to do this when I'm sitting in that little video village thing with my set and my chair and headphones on. And so many people would come up to me and say, hey, I've been involved from craft food services to makeup to wardrobe. They'd come up and say, hey, I've been involved in hundreds of these things in Hollywood, and none of them have felt like this. And they made a point to come up and tell me that. They didn't need to. And so many people did that. And that's a testament to you and Antoine at the top, like setting this tone that was encouraging to everybody on set. They wanted to be there. They wanted to be doing their best work. And, I have nothing to compare it to, but all of them did, because they're at the top of their games, meaning that they've done this before. It wasn't anybody's first time out doing this type of a show. And that was really cool. And that just speaks to you and Antoine and your guys' character and what you bring to these projects. And it's just next level. And it did not go unnoticed by every single person on set.
Oh, that means a lot. Thank you. That does mean a lot. And I hear all these stories. I guess I've had a couple of instances that I can understand where people are coming from, but boy, can a project be ruined by failed leadership from the most influential people, from the number one on the call sheet. I mean, if they have a bad attitude, everyone has a bad attitude. It really starts right there at the top. And not to say that I'm right there at the top, but in this project, anyone who's at that level, who's number one on the call sheet, they have a real responsibility. And oftentimes they don't, I saw it when I was younger. I worked with people who were just assholes, man. Like at the top, they had all the power, and they forced people to respect them by being a bit tyrants. And I would see in the moment them getting exactly what they wanted and being pretty good, being pretty good at their job. And that was early on in my career. And I remember distinctly thinking like, oh no, this actually might not be cut out for me, because I don't really have that. I just don't have that.
That gene.
I don't really have that in me. I think it's a thing, like, to be completely indifferent to whether or not you've just pissed off a room full of people, right? Just so you can get your way. Like I don't have that in me. I'm too much of like a pleaser, I think, so
it's just respect and,
but nonetheless, at the time I was a little nervous. I was like, oh great. That's what you have to do to get to the top. I really want to go to the top. But I honestly don't know how to do that. So, but then subsequently I've seen, that has a very that gives you a short shelf life, because the people that you are pissing off, like you're making life difficult for people around you. Guess what? They're going to continue to have a career, and at some point it'll be up to them whether or not they're going to hire you, and they will say no. They'll be like, nope, I've been through that. Fool me once. Nope, I've dealt with that asshole. Not going to have them on set anymore, because like the person who was the PA or the person who was the second AD, now they're running a show. They're a UPM, they're a first AD, they're running these shows. So like the people you see on the way up, they're going to see you on your way down. And it benefits, not that that's like my motivating factor is like, some cunning way I'm planning in the future for people to take care of me by being nice to them. It's just kind of inherently who I want to be.
Yeah. And it seems like it'd be miserable to go through life the other way, and you get to choose that attitude. Like you get to pick really when you wake up every morning. Somebody tell the kids, I say, never miss an opportunity to make somebody's day. And I saw you do that every single day on set. I saw you do that. And so you live it. You might have never thought of it, but you do that every day. You do that as a person. Like that's who you are, and you do it every single day.
That's nice. Thanks, brother.
Well, yeah, and you did it. We did it with the show too. I mean, to have Amazon come to the plate, also with these veteran organizations, with the Brain Treatment Foundation, with Rescue 22 Foundation. We had Best Defense Foundation, these World War II veterans there in their wheelchairs at the premiere. Awesome. I mean, incredible. Donnie Edwards' foundation there. And I mean, to have those guys there, I mean, they're all creeping up on 100, or they're already over 100.
Wow, you're right. That's where we are in time. I mean, the greatest generation, if they served in World War II, they might be over 100 now, and they may have been 16 or 17 when they served. I mean, that's how much time has gone by. Yeah. Like that generation is in their final hours. It's like, wow. Yeah. It's just wild to think. I mean, what is it? What is that thing that goes around? Hard times make strong men make easy times make soft men make hard times. Oh yeah. Like those are some strong men that made some good times.
Yeah. So I think about those guys. I think about them when I was in Buds. I think about them when I'm facing whatever type of adversity or whatever else, how much they sacrificed and how much harder it was for them to give me these options and opportunities that I have, that we have today in this country. So I think about that quite a bit when I'm making decisions that are going to impact the next generation. So it's tough. But those guys and the youngest ones all lied. The guys that are like 95, like they lied about their age to get in. They forged birth certificates, whatever they needed to do to go fight for their country.
Could you imagine someone right now who wasn't old enough to fight forging a birth certificate so they could go and fight? I mean,
different times. Yeah.
I miss that. We don't like the closest I've ever seen to that type of unity was probably just in America just after 9/11.
Yeah.
When everyone was waving flags and, you hate for hard times to unify people.
Yeah.
But, I feel the world in the West seems in America seems really divided right now.
Yeah, I know it's tough.
I wonder if that's the result of it having been
soft times. That's why I like to jump into those pages of the history books, because it can remind us of how hard it was and what was sacrificed for us, and maybe we'd be a little more appreciative of some of those things, and a little kinder also to other people out there, our fellow citizens. But I know you got to go, and
no, that's all right. Speaking of books, see this one right here?
Do you recognize this one? I sure do. Once an Eagle, Anton Meyer, right there. Yep.
You got me this book, hard copy, after I finished it, and I read the letter. He wrote me a letter. In the end of it, I would recommend anybody who loves to read, follow Jack's book club recommendation. This is one of the books that he recommended I read to play SEAL Commander James Reece, and I read that. Also, this one here is called Fiasco.
Oh yeah,
Thomas Ricks. That's a pretty awesome book.
Yeah,
a history book on sort of our involvement, just to kind of get an understanding of what maybe Reece would have gone through. I also read Stephen Pressfield's the Warrior Ethos, which is a quick read and really fantastic.
It is
really spectacular. What else did I think those were the three books I read. Once an Eagle. I mean, by the time we started, I was still reading it because that's a big book.
It's a commitment.
It's a commitment.
You can use it as a doorstop for anybody that buys it. Like it does. It will have another use after you finish reading it, because that's a long book right there.
But it is a fantastic book. Sam Damon. I mean, wow. There's this really special, and his relationship with his father-in-law, who talks about, the world being obsessed with treating human beings as how they ought to be and not how they are. That whole passage is really powerful.
There's so many good ones in there that are really impactful to me as a leader. And really the message of that whole book, if you encapsulate it, I think, is to see to your character, and your reputation will take care of itself. Because those are two different things, character and reputation. But if you see to your character, your reputation will take care of itself. So there's that. And then I love when Sam Damon's talking to his son and says, you can't help what you were born, and you don't have much to say about where you die, but you can and you should live the days in between as a good man. Yeah. And I just love that passage.
That's beautiful, man. That is so good. I highly recommend that book for people. Isn't that like mandatory reading at West Point? Is that right?
It's been on their reading list. I'm not sure. I hope it's mandatory still. Yeah. But who knows today what's mandatory over there? But it should be anyway, because it's an impactful one, and not just for people in the military, but just it's a great story. You learn a little bit about history too, because it spans from pre-World War I all the way up to Vietnam. So you learn a little bit about history in there. So it's historical fiction as well.
Yeah, it is historical fiction in that way. That's really kind of amazing. And told from the point of view of a person who's enlisted, like a Mustang kind of commander who's works his way up into command and has a respect, but also like a disdain for the person who gets appointed that position and looks at only themselves. The Massengale effect, the character who's just like, I wanted to call Pillar, and I think I did it in one of the takes, but didn't make the show. I wanted to call him a Massengale motherfucker.
Oh, I like that. I didn't know that you put that in there, because in the book, I put that in there. I say a Massengale Ax. It's in there when I describe him in the novel. So I put that in there
is that right?
For people that are, the people that have read Once an Eagle, they'll pick up on it. So that's actually in there as I describe him in the.
Is that right? Book. Yeah. And that's incredible. I love that. Yeah, he is total Massengale.
Yeah. Yeah, no, big time, man. And then before we go, also, I know you're very involved with Special Olympics, and I mean, you've done so much with that organization, a bunch of other organizations out there. That hunger organization that you did the
Feeding America,
Feeding America. That was amazing. You guys raised a ton for that. But as you know, our son has these severe special needs, and he needs 24/7 full-time care forever. So every time I see you doing something with Special Olympics out there, I mean, I know it makes such an impact for people that follow you that are dealing with those sorts of things. So I wanted to thank you personally for doing all that as well.
Thank you. Thanks, man. Special Olympics is an extraordinary organization. And I really feel like it feels like a platitude hearing this from people, but once you experience it, you know that it's actually true. The work that you do with them benefits you far more than it benefits them. Like you look at people who coach or who spend time in Special Olympics, and it is so absolutely rewarding. I mean, there's really nothing like it. And what an awesome organization. And I've always been really kind of drawn to Special Olympics. My neighbor growing up, Rory Parrish, was a Special Olympian, and he wore like 40 medals around his neck at all time. He was like the Ice-T of Special Olympics. He just like, he had all his medals, and the dude was a really good athlete.
Awesome.
He had intellectual disabilities, and, but he had a place to shine, and it was his identity and it was his life. And you see these folks in the Special Olympics, it's awesome, man. You do a little work with them, and it shifts your perspective. It feeds your soul. It's an awesome organization, not only because of what it does for people with intellectual disabilities, but also what it does for people who volunteer their time. I mean, they need it just as much as the people with intellectual disabilities. It's an amazing call to be of service. And if anyone's ever wondering where to spend their time or focus their energy, or feeling down and refreshing Instagram isn't doing it for you, find Special Olympics and see what you can do to be of service, because that will truly fill your soul, man. I'm telling you, it's the best.
Incredible. And Shriver families and Kennedy families, obviously huge behind that, and a bunch of other things that benefit people with disabilities. But incredible. I don't know if you saw this as we were talking there, but Black Rifle made you this a while ago. I don't know if you can see that right there. So this Burt Macklin, I think, but it's a little Jurassic thrown in there, and then some Legos falling from the sky, and they got the I think the blaster from Guardians, I think, is in there. So yeah, they made me this special cup when they found out that we were doing Terminal List. So
wait, come on, tell them to send me. But come on, guys, I need one.
They might have told me to give this to you. I'm not positive, but I'll get you one.
yeah. Wait a minute. They sent that to you, huh?
Yeah. So they did that. No, and how cool it was Amazon to partner with these guys to do for the show, raise money for these veterans organizations.
Yeah, man.
Incredible. Absolutely.
Well, that was the big thing that I really loved about the book. And then hopefully we thread as much as that as possible into the series, was like sort of giving shout outs to these companies that are authentically supported in the community of Spec Ops guys, and Black Rifle Coffee Company is definitely one of them. That was we had them all over. Same with this shirt.
There you go. I see it. Yeah, I saw the grunt style on there.
They sent me this a box of shirts because we had a bunch of their stuff in the show, and then nice. Like, hey, it's so cool,
Nice.
And like, everything from like Knock On, putting that
so many
PST bow in there from Knock On, and John Dudley's company, and just like pretty cool, man. Yeah,
no, it's really cool. And I'm gonna let you go. I know you got to get going. Terminal List right here. Look at you. Look at that guy. And it was, they don't usually do the hardcovers for this, but they did one for this because Simon & Schuster recognized that something's a little different about this project. So a hardcover, of course, there's the paperbacks and everything else. But then it was shocking that it wasn't selling. So, we had to go and put a different cover on there. So Taylor, shout out to Taylor.
Ben
Edwards right there. Yeah, an Amazon original starring Taylor Kitsch on Prime Video. So I think we'll have to there's not many of these. So I think we're gonna have to sign them and raffle them off for one of these organizations or something like that.
Yeah, that's far more valuable.
Man, but thank you so much for everything, for personally and professionally. Sincerely appreciated from the bottom of my heart. And we did kind of hint at it a little early because everybody's asking about a season 2, and we hinted about it about 15 minutes ago in this. So I think it's best just to say that we'll see, and there's some maybe some cool stuff on the horizon being discussed. We'll see.
I would say to the people, the rabid fans of the Terminal List out there, you have nothing to worry about. We love you and we appreciate your support, and is our life's mission to make sure you can come back to the well. And so we're working away.
Awesome. Thanks, brother. I'll let you go get the rest of your day. Get after it. And thank you for everything.
All right. Thank you too, man. We'll talk to you later.
Take care. A special thanks to our presenting sponsor, Navy Federal Credit Union. I've been a member since 1996. That is my first year in the military. And right now, when you become a member of Navy Federal Credit Union, life gets better. That's why they created a fully loaded car buying experience. I bought cars and motorcycles using it in the past. You can finance, buy, protect, and enjoy your auto purchase all from one convenient place. They have pre-approval that's good for 90 days, so you know what you can afford while you shop. They also offer great auto loan rates. You can shop for new and used cars with Navy Federal's car buying service powered by TrueCar. You can also get exclusive member savings with Carfax, SiriusXM, and more. They're always available with 24/7 member service representatives to answer any questions. Learn more at NavyFederal.org/car buying. Credit and collateral subject to approval. Navy Federal Credit Union is federally insured by NCUA. Check them out, NavyFederal.org. I want to thank my friends at Black Rifle Coffee for sponsoring the Danger Close podcast. I've been a huge fan for the longest time. Drink Black Rifle Coffee every day. And if you keep your eyes peeled, you will notice that perhaps Chris Pratt is wearing a Black Rifle Coffee t-shirt, not unsimilar to this one, in the Amazon series adaptation of the Terminal List. Now you can go to blackriflecoffee.com/dangerclose and use code DangerClose20 at checkout for 20% off your purchase and your first coffee club order. Black Rifle Coffee, America's coffee. Keep crushing. Today's gear segment is sponsored by Zero Foxtrot. Zero Foxtrot provides unique products that reflect the old school vintage military lifestyle. I've actually been following these guys for a while. Love what they're doing. Have a bunch of other shirts and coffee mugs downstairs from the last few years. Just love it when guys get out and absolutely crush it. Zero Foxtrot is veteran founded and is a proud supporter of our nation's defenders, veterans, and first responders. I'm actually wearing this shirt. Look at that. Canoe Club USA. What does that mean? I think you're going to have to look it up in your web browser, the Google machine. Canoe Club USA. Awesome shirts out there. They have limited edition ones that drop every now and again that are super cool. So definitely go to zerofoxtrot.com. And right now, we have an exclusive code for listeners of Danger Close. Use code JC at checkout for 20% off your order. Very cool. Remember, you can gear up with Zero Foxtrot and use code JC at checkout for 20% off your order. Just go to zerofoxtrot.com/JC and remember to use code JC for 20% off at checkout, or just click the link in the description. Once again, that offer code is JC. Gear up with Zero Foxtrot and use code JC for 20% off. Awesome. Definitely do that and check out all they have going on. Follow them on the social channels. They have some great things out there. They do some history posts every now and again that are really cool and very well thought out. Definitely check out zerofoxtrot.com for all the stuff. They have Zippo lighters in there. They have these mugs right here. What does that say? Drink coffee, stack bodies. Stay zero. Love this. And then this one right here, this is cool. This might be a limited edition one. I'm not sure. But for St. Patrick's Day, lack fear, not beer. Look at that. Boom. Love it. Awesome. So that's what they look like right there. Zero Foxtrot. And you get a little of that action right there. That's a sticker. But check out their t-shirts, mugs right here. Whiskey glasses. These are some of my favorites right there. Look at that. Oh, yeah. Solid. So check them out for sure. zerofoxtrot.com/JC for 20% off. Welcome to the gear highlight portion of the Danger Close podcast. All right. Thank you so much to Chris Pratt for coming on. That was awesome. Always love talking to Chris. What an amazing guy he is. And he's also on the cover of the new Terminal List right here. So what makes it new is obviously the cover, but I also wrote a new foreword that talks about how all this came to be. So it goes into detail on my relationship with Jared, how he got this book to Chris, all the veterans that were involved in the show. And that's all in here in a brand new foreword. And then there are also some pictures from the set in here. So there we go. There's some more right there. Me and Taylor, me and Chris, and just what a cool group of people we had working on this show. So that is out there now. It's in trade paperback, which is the large paperback. It's in mass market paperback, which is the smaller paperback. And it's in hardcover, but the hardcover is the only one with that forward and with those pictures. So that right there. Thank you, Chris, for everything. And speaking of the show, right here, Hooten Young whiskey. This one is barrel proof, aged 15 years. So what Jared and Chris, as Boozer and James Reece, are drinking at the bar in episode 1. If you are looking closely, you will recognize Hooten Young whiskey right here. They were drinking that, and then also James Reece makes up a email address to contact Katie, and it's hootenyoung@protonmail.com. So if you were paying attention, you saw that. But Norm Hooten right here, he was played by Eric Bana in Black Hawk Down, Delta operator who now makes whiskey and makes cigars right here. And they sent this, which I will enjoy. And I was just reading the back of this, and it says, our limited bottling of barrel-proof Hooten Young American whiskey is straight from the cask. This whiskey boasts notes of clove and baked apple, best enjoyed when savored slowly over ice with your closest friends. Our mission remains simple. We are committed to honoring America's heroes, one thought-provoking sip at a time. That's pretty cool. So thank you guys. Thank you, Hooten Young. Thank you, Norm, for all you've done for this nation. And they also sent this. Look at this. Hooten Young right here. So they have a bunch of different cigars. There's some over there. And this one comes in a case that looks like an ammo can, but inside are cigars right here. So this is the Ma Deuce, and this is pretty cool too. It says the Hooten Young Ma Deuce cigar selection was conceptualized by a member of the Hooten Young family, Clint Aaron Taylor. As an individual with autism, he never lets challenges dampen his spirit. He enjoys spending time with his friends over a cigar while swapping stories. This one's for you, Clint. So that was very cool. And thank you guys for sending. And thank you guys for sending this. Look at this thing. This is a lighter that is next level. If I can get this thing out. Yeah, look at this. Whoa, flat lighter right there. Bam, with the Hooten Young symbol on it. So thank you guys for that. And I've always wanted a very robust and heavy duty cigar cutter. And that's what they sent me. Look at that. It's got the Hooten Young symbol on it right there. And man, this thing is just awesome. So thank you guys for sending this right there. Oh yeah. So awesome. Wanted that for a long time. So appreciate the care package and then appreciate the kind words here. It says, Jack, we're beyond grateful for your support of Hooten Young and the veteran community. Enjoy this small token of our sincere appreciation. Cheers. Thanks, guys. Really cool. All right, there we go. Speaking of the terminal list, James Reece universe, somebody, man, this thing is just so cool. Joe, he's Tracker Joe 08 on Instagram, and he made me this bow. And he learned how to make this from his grandfather right here. And I haven't shot it yet, but I plan on it. And he shot it, made sure that it was working before he sent it out. And I mean, this thing is a work of art. So I'd like to take it maybe on, well, I'd like to practice with it, take it on a hunt. And then I think it's going to have to go on the wall because this thing is absolutely beautiful and sincerely appreciated. So, Joe, man, thank you so much. Once again, Tracker Joe 08 on Instagram. And then he made these arrows right here to go with it. Very cool. And before that, though, he sent me this. And Chris and I talked about it on the podcast. But right here, he did some research into what tribes in Siberia and Kamchatka would use to make arrows. And of course, Savage Son is the book where James Reece goes to Kamchatka, works his way through Siberia. And right here, this is deer bone right here. Some sort of tar is holding it on. Got the feathers right there. And he tried to get this as close as he could to something that would have been used by those tribes in Siberia and Kamchatka. So very cool. Thank you. Just incredible. That stuff really means a lot to me. So that is that. And all right, here we go. Dynamis, if you're paying attention, the beginning of the terminal list where those opening credits are running through James Reece's garage office, there's a sticker on the wall there that says honor. And that comes from Dynamis Alliance and my friend Dom Rosso from Dynamis Alliance. We were at SEAL Team 2 together. And right here, this is his new G10 blade right here. So non-metallic, and right there, you can see that. So this might just have to end up in a future novel, but not only is the blade there non-metallic, so is the sheath. So right here, no metal on here. Very cool. So Dom, thank you so much. Sincerely appreciate everything that you do for me and the family. And bam, DynamisAlliance.com. Check them out. And Chris and I also talked on the podcast a little bit about Black Rifle Coffee and Amazon teaming up to help out veteran organizations. And they did that with this coffee. It's all sold out now. It went pretty quick, but it was Terminal List coffee. You could get it on Amazon on their charitable foundation part of their website. But all the proceeds, as with this sweatshirt, this was 511 Tactical, working with Amazon, all proceeds going to veteran-focused organizations. This one was to the UDT SEAL Museum in Fort Pierce, Florida. There were a couple other ones that this coffee right here helped out. So very cool, Amazon and Black Rifle to do that, and 511. Sincerely appreciated. Maybe we'll do another coffee for season 2, if there's a season 2. We'll see. All right. And of course, the Winkler Tomahawk. They're backed up a little bit now. They were backed up about 6 months, 8 months with the books, and then with the show, maybe a year, something like that. So right there, that's the Winkler Hawk that James Reece uses in all the novels and that Chris Pratt uses as James Reece in the show. And yeah, this thing, solid. Absolutely love it. And I went with this as a weapon that James Reece would use as I started writing that first book, because I wanted something that spoke to James Reece as being a student of war, student of history, and take something that is an ancient weapon, but some modern techniques as far as its craftsmanship goes. And Daniel Winkler right here, this was it. So this is James Reece's weapon of choice. Very cool. Love this thing. All right. What else? Right here, Eagles and Angels. Tom Flanagan over there, former Delta operator. He has this company that he started when he got out of the military, Eagles and Angels, and they take uniforms, veteran uniforms, and they turn them into hats and belt buckles. They repurpose them, and the veteran whose uniform that is gets to choose where a portion of those proceeds go. So right here, this one is from Caleb Brewer, a friend of mine, awesome guy. He lost his legs in Afghanistan, and he now has a company called Stick Sniper Archery in Tucson, Arizona. He's building up some bows for me and the family right now. He built me an awesome Matthews that I'm using, and I shot it, loved it. So now there's a few more coming for the rest of the family. But this has his uniform right there behind the flag, and inside it talks about whose it is right here. So Caleb Brewer, U.S. Army Special Forces, Instagram, CK Brewer, Brewer. And then for Eagles and Angels, they have a bunch of other things on their site as well. You can go to eaglesandangelsltd.com. So right there, very cool. Caleb, thanks for everything, brother. Awesome. And Tom, you're doing amazing things out there at Eagles and Angels. All right. I think that covers us for today. All right. Take care out there. See you next time. Thank you for tuning in to the Danger Close podcast, an Ironclad original presented by Navy Federal Credit Union. To find out more about what Chris Pratt has going on, follow him on Instagram and Twitter at Pratt. And of course, watch the Terminal List on Prime Video. You can follow me at Jack Carr USA on the social channels, officialjackcarr.com. That is the website. You can sign up for the newsletter there. You can also click on shop for the merch. And if you enjoyed this conversation, be sure to leave a 5-star rating and review and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Until the next time, take care out there. Stay safe, be strong, keep fighting.